Well, good morning. We're in the Lake District and this is Buttermere and it's absolutely gorgeous. Now we've come here for sunrise, but we're not going to get that. We've got clouds, but it's creating that much mood. It looks absolutely fantastic and it's just started to spot with rain. And I think I've found a lovely composition here. Now I've steered away from the lone tree because it really doesn't interest me, to be honest. It's not photogenic one bit, if you ask me. Anyway, I've got this lovely little cove in front of me here and a little bit of land that pokes out and points towards the hills and a nice little bit of grassy area in front there. So we've got a little bit of a bay. And yeah, I think the composition looks fantastic. And with the mood in the background, it looks spot on. Let's get the shot. Yeah. Now I'm using around about a 3-second exposure on this and it's smoothing the water out just a touch. We've got no reflections. We did have earlier, but the wind's got up. And yeah, I'm just blown away by this. It's fantastic. It really is brilliant. Yeah. Well, I'm going to walk around and see what else I can find because I'm sure there's lots more here that's going to get my interest. And this rain's starting to get a lot heavier. So, yeah, we could be in for something good. Well, I knew I wouldn't have to walk far before I found something else that got my attention. In front of me here, I've got this lovely oak tree and there's another little tree in front of it, which I haven't got a clue what that is, but it's certainly not an oak. Anyway, this oak tree is sort of leaning over the water with some rocks underneath it there. And the reflections of the tree mimic the reflections of the mountains in the background there. And it looks gorgeous. Now we have got an ugly bit of hose pipe in front of me here, which I'll sort that out in Photoshop and get rid of that. But yeah, it looks lovely. And as you might have noticed, we're in autumn. So we've got some beautiful colours in the trees. Yes, my shutter speed's round about half a second for this one. And we've got a few ripples in the water, which is a shame. Now I can't do a longer exposure because unfortunately the leaves are blowing in the wind. That does look nice. Let's move on a bit again, shall we? Well, I've come across another lovely scene. And what we've got here is we've got this oak tree, which appears to have been blown down in storms many years ago, but it's still growing. So it's growing flat across the ground, more or less. And it's growing into the lake. And we've got toadstools growing around it in places, and it looks fantastic. Anyway, I've put my camera in portrait orientation for this one, and I've got it as high as I can. Well, not quite as high as I can get higher. But yeah, I'm not quite high, pointing down at it. And yeah, it's covered in moss, there's roots exposed, there's lovely autumn colours in the leaves. Now there's a lot of rubbish around it. Now normally I do a bit of gardening and get rid of that, but there's that much of it, it'll be easier for me to get rid of it in post. So that's what I'm going to do. Now I put my polarizer on for this one to try and get rid of the glare in the water, which is creating hot spots. And with a bit of luck, I've got rid of those. So conditions have changed. That's because I've come back a couple of days later. Not only that, we're getting on towards sunset, whereas before it was just gone sunrise. Now the reason for that is because I've been filming stuff with the rest of the Thumbs Up guys for Series 2. Now if you've not seen Series 1, check it out. I'll put a link in the description. Now we're about an hour from sunset here, and we've got some lovely clouds developing over in the west there. So I'm hoping we might get some lovely colours in the sky. And for that I'm going to head up further up the lake and shoot down the lake and hopefully get some nice reflections of the sky in the lake too, because we've got some lovely calm water here. Anyway, I've got these 3 rocks down in front of the tripod here and another line of rocks in front of those. And some lovely reflections of the hills in the background there and the trees. Now I've got the tripod set up quite high here so I can get some separation between the rocks in the foreground there and reflections of the mountains. Now again I'm going to have to bracket this because the dynamic range between the highlights and the shadows is so great. Well, it's shaping up to what could be a beautiful sunset now. We've got about 10-15 minutes left before the sun sets. We've got some clouds in the valley behind me here, catching the light, and it looks fantastic. Beautiful reflections in the water. I'm using a long exposure here. I say long, around about 15 seconds, because I'm trying to smooth out the water that little bit, but I don't want to get too much movement in the clouds. Well, unfortunately, it looks like that's going to be a bust. The clouds have dropped down below the mountains here and the lights all but disappeared. Well, I'm going to abandon this composition now and concentrate at the head of the valley because we've got some mist developing over the mountains, which looks quite nice. And I'm hoping we might get some low-lying mist above the water developing too. Let's have a look. Well, we've come to the head of the lake now and we've got some low-level mist forming over the far side behind the house. Well, shed or whatever you'd like to call it. Anyway, it's looking rather nice. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pop the long lens on and have a crack with that. Well, I'm zoomed in about 320mm now, and I've got the house on the top right-hand third. And yeah, the mist developing over the water looks quite nice. And also, we've got some beautiful reflections still. Not only that, I've noticed the sky above the mountains there, I've got a lovely pink hue to them. So once I've got this shot, I might just swap back over to my wide angle and frame the whole lot up, hopefully with a nice sky. I think what I'm going to do now is pop my camera into portrait orientation and do a pano. Well, I'm going to call it here. I've had a fantastic time here at Buttermere, both today and a couple of days ago. Anyway, if you like what you've seen, give us a like and perhaps consider subscribing. And also, check out our Facebook page, Thumbs Up Photography. And not forgetting, thumbs up the photography show on YouTube. Till next time, bye for now.